Hi everyone, it's Kristie here with another video for Two Scrapbook Friends. Thanks for joining today. We are going to be working on a glitzy wedding or anniversary card. Someone very close to me recently got married, and we are going to use green because it was a spring wedding as our inspiration for this card, and use some of the Gina K Glitz Glitter Gel in silver to jazz things up a little bit. So I've got the list here of things we'll be using to make our card project today. We've got our usual adhesives, tape runner, foam tape, and liquid glue. I've got some gems from Studio Katya. These are called Poseidon. They are a beautiful, nice glitzy crystal. So we'll add some bling to our project with those. We got our standard tools, jewel pick, tweezers, and scissors, as well as some of the Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110-pound weight cardstock. This will be our card base, and we're going to be working on a standard A2 size card that's 5.5 inches across and 4.5 inches tall. So I've already cut and scored that, so we will use that to put our finished project together. For our sentiment today, I'm going to be using the "And They Lived Happily Ever After" sentiment from the Tailored Expressions Simple Strips background. So if you've never used these Tailored Expression sets, there's many different ones. This one is Simple Strips background. They have them for friendship, birthday, all different kinds of occasions. And it's one solid piece of red rubber. So you peel this off, stick this in your MISTI or your stamp positioning tool. And in this case, I used the Wow embossing ink and then some silver embossing powder from Lawn Fawn. And what's really cool is you stamp this down, you've got all these sentiments all at one time, and then there is a matching die that you can run through your die cut machine, and you line it up with these squares, run that through your die cutting machine on your piece of paper that you just stamped or embossed, and you have all of these sentiments in one go. So a really great way to get a lot of sentiments. This is also a really good thing to do and make a bunch of if your creative juices aren't quite flowing. You can still be really productive and get a lot of sentiments built up in your stash. And then what's even better is Tailored Expressions sells these little boxes where you can store your sentiment strips. So these are available from Two Scrapbook Friends. They hold 2 trays of sentiments, and I just keep mine stacked up. You can see I stamp them or emboss them in different colors, mostly neutral things, dark grays, blacks, lighter grays, some like taupey color, just so that they go with the majority of projects. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out, and if you have to make something quickly, you've got a stash already built up. So we're going to be using, again, that's the Tailored Expressions Simple Strips background, and that particular stamp has the "And They Lived Happily Ever After" sentiment, which we will use on our project. So we'll put those off to the side. Then the star of the show here today is a piece of emerald cardstock. I've already got this adhered to my stencil with some purple tape, but this has a very vibrant green. This cardstock is from the Stamp Market. Stamp Market cardstock is new to me, and I'm really enjoying the colors. I'm enjoying how it's holding up with different mediums like the Glitz Glitter Gel and other inks. So it's really cool, and I'm really enjoying having that in my collection. So I've got this stencil from Echo Park on the top. This is from the Echo Park Let's Go Anywhere collection, and this stencil is called Sunburst. So what we will do is get these products out of the way. I will put this up again at the end of the video if you want to take a screenshot and go shopping. And I just realized, sorry, there is a typo. This should say Studio Katya, not Studio Kadams. And I wonder if that's because I'm a big fan of Jason Kadams, who is a television writer and producer. He produced Friday Night Lights and Parenthood. And I think I've told so many people about him that my phone auto corrects Katya to Kadams. So there you go. You get some crafting and TV recommendations. Who knew? So let's get into the stenciling. So As I mentioned, the stencil is from Echo Park from their new Let's Go Anywhere collection. And we're going to be using some of the Glitz Glitter Gel from Gina K in silver right on top of this emerald cardstock from the Stamp Market. So I'm going to give this glitter gel a bit of a stir here. And if you haven't worked with the Glitz Glitter Gel, it's a really easy medium to work with. And what I really like about it is it gets right into all the nooks and crannies really easily on your stencils. But the best thing about it is it wipes off the stencil really well. So you don't have nearly any waste, which is great because you don't want to be wasting your mediums as you work with them. So I'm just going to go around here, make sure this is getting into all of the little bursts on this Sunburst stencil. I really like working with stencils like this because they automatically create a center focal point, or any stencil like this that you could move it around and have the focal point wherever. In this case, we are putting it in the center of our card project, but it's really fantastic to be able to have that guesswork done for you. So if you're a new card maker, I would highly recommend getting stencils like this to start your collection and start working on your card projects, because it does take a little bit of the guesswork out of it. So I'm just going around here. Looks like I've got all of the pieces covered. So I'm just taking my spatula here and getting the excess off of the stencil. And you can see how much I'm getting off of that, and I'm able to put that right back into the container to use on a next project. So really, you get hardly any waste, which is a huge bonus in using this Glitz Glitter Gel. So we've just got this last part here. Take off the excess, and I think we will call it a day. So scrape the rest back in here. I'm just gonna grab a couple of baby wipes so that I can keep my tools wet so that the Glitz Glitter Gel doesn't totally dry onto my tools. I'll wash them later, but I find well, this spatula you can clean totally in the moment with a baby wipe. That's not an issue. But with the stencil, if you lay a wet baby wipe over top, then it keeps it so that whatever medium you're using isn't going to dry completely on top of your stencil. So I'm just going to peel up the stencil here, and look at that. So really cool to see that silver glitter gel on the emerald cardstock. I love that. The other great thing about the Gina K Glitz Glitter Gels is they do not take too long to dry. Now I did do another one of these earlier, so through the magic of television and crafty videos, I do have a dried version here. But if you were doing this in the moment, you probably could craft over top of this within 20 minutes. It really doesn't take long at all. And I'm just going to peel back the purple tape so I can set this aside to dry. And I'll just give you one other tip here. If you find when you've used Glitz Glitter Gel and you get a little bit of a hangover of the gel on the edges of your project, just take your mono sand eraser and rub it gently on the edge, and it will get rid of those rough edges. So I'm not going to play around with this too much because it's still wet. So, but you can see, like, even already I can tap that lightly with my fingers and it's not going anywhere. But I'm not going to fiddle too much with this because I don't want to wreck it. So I'm going to set this piece off aside to dry, and we're going to use the dried version here. So again, I really love that silver, how it just pops onto that emerald cardstock from the Stamp Market. I think that looks really cool. So we've got that done and ready to go. Next up, we have our sentiment, and I am going to pop up this sentiment using some foam tape. Tailored Expressions sells foam sticky strips, which are available on the Two Scrapbook Friends store. I'm going to use foam tape because I don't have any of the sticky strips right now. And I have this piece of foam tape left over from a previous project. So I'm just going to do some foam tape fussy cutting here. And I am going to double up the layer of foam tape because I want to use some of those Poseidon gems from Studio Katya. And I think what I'd like to do is tuck some of them. So I've just doubled up my layer of foam tape here. And we'll get this down onto the back of our sentiment. And I think if I cut this in half, actually, if I just fold this piece on top of itself, peel back part of it, give that a little snip, then that should be enough to keep this sentiment nice and lofty on our card. Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in the T-ruler so that we can make sure we're getting this sentiment nice and straight on our card. And again, we're using the landscape orientation because in this case, this sentiment is actually a little bit bigger than the card panel that I have. And this panel, just for reference, is a little bit smaller than the actual front of the card of the finished card. So you can see we're gonna have a nice 1/4 of an inch even margin on all sides. So the finished size of this panel is 3 3/4 inches by, what do we have here from the final, by 5 inches. So that's what we're working with in terms of this finished panel. Okay, so I'm going to peel off the release paper. And if you've tuned into some of the other videos, you would have seen that one thing that I really like, that a tip I learned on other card maker channels, is to put a little bit of liquid glue on the back of your foam tape. And it gives you a little bit of playtime and wiggle room to make sure you're getting your sentiments or whatever you're gluing down perfectly straight on your project. So we are going to set this down. That looks good. Another thing you can do is also lift your cardstock up and hold it a little bit away from you, and you can tell quite easily that way if you've got things straight and if it's looking good to your eye as well. So that looks good. Great, so get the T-ruler out of the way. And before we put our gems on, I'm going to adhere this to the front panel of our card. So I'm just using my tape runner here from Scrapbook Adhesives, getting a nice amount of the adhesive on the back because we've got the foam tape, the Glitz Glitter Gel, and we're going to be putting some gems on this as well. So one thing that I really love to use is one of the rulers that I have from my sewing stash. So this is a ruler from Creative Grids. And as you saw earlier, we have a 1/4 of an inch margin all around this card base for our panel. So I've got this lined up at a 1/4 of an inch coming in from the left-hand side. I can take my piece of paper, line it up right against the ruler, and you can see that I'm a 1/4 of an inch from the top and the bottom automatically, and I can adhere that to my card front with confidence. So there we go. We've got our panel adhered, and all that's left for this project is some of these gorgeous glittery Poseidon gems from Studio Katya. So I've got my jewel picker tool here from Maker Forte. If you're unfamiliar with this tool, we've got one end that has the sticky tip to pick up your gems, and the other end is a pokey tool to move things around and do whatever you need to do with a pokey tool. So we're just gonna grab a few of the gems here, and I really love how these Poseidon gems look against the emerald cardstock. I thought that was really cool. and just gave it a little bit of interest. So I'm just going to play around here. If you've watched any of Kathy Zielski's videos, you will know from her design background that putting odd numbers of things like sequins on your projects adds a little bit of interest. So we are going to go with 5 of these gems. And I'm going to put 3 down at on the bottom side and 2 up at the top. And I might just shimmy this one over just a little bit and put this one here. And I think we will go with that. So I am going to scoot these out of the way so that we can put some liquid glue down. And when you're using your liquid glue for adhering things like these gems, it's a good idea to let your liquid glue just set for a moment. So even in this time that I'm talking and getting the rest of the glue down, that glue is starting to set up already. So, and when it sets up, it means that it gets a little tackier right away. So it tends to grab onto those gems easily. Now you can see that it's changed the color a little bit right now. Like these gems look different than these ones, right? But the Lawn Fawn liquid glue dries clear. So number 1, they're going to look like these ones do once it's dried. And number 2, any of that glue that's oozing out around the sides is going to dry clear also. So we don't need to get ourselves worried with, oh no, the glue seeped out. Not a problem at all. It will dry clear and we're good to go. So this is our finished card project for today. Super fast. Easy card to be able to put together and to celebrate a wedding or an anniversary of anyone that you have coming up. So try out your colored cardstocks with some of your gel pastes or the new stencil butters that are available from Two Scrapbook Friends. Lots of things you can do. I know that the selection of stencils is amazing right now, and there's so much you can do with them. So if you are a new card maker, look for those stencils that automatically create something like a center focal point, or you could even move this around on your project to move it in different spaces, but it really makes things easy for you as you are designing your projects. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have a moment, please subscribe to the Two Scrapbook Friends YouTube channel. We'd love to have you. And if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up and we will see you next time.